Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We are back with the Canon review. This is episode 3. This is episode 6, Return of the Jedi. That's what we are reviewing today. Let's quickly talk about it. So this movie is a sequel, of course, to episode 5, and that makes sense. That makes sense. It's a sequel that takes a giant step down in terms of both quality and VFX, visual effects. It's still really, really good, especially for the time. This movie always had to me, it always felt more like an 80s movie rather than a Star Wars movie. It feels dated simply because of the era in which it's not set in, but of which it was produced in. The story is just as solid as the rest, but I will say that it has a very predictable ending. You know, there are a lot of major set pieces in this movie. You start off in Jabba's palace where they're rescuing Han from the carbonite, and then of course you have the big finale, and parts on Endor, very big. There's a lot of in the second act, really, there's a lot of like downtime where it feels like there's not a lot of conflict, there's not a lot of tension. Luke goes back to Dagobah. Yoda basically just confirms what Luke already knew and then dies. And then also tells him that he has a sister, but tells him that he must hide it from the Emperor, which is not really something that Yoda would do. Of course, at this point, I guess it's not really out of character. If anything, I guess the prequels would be out of character, but because you have the full story, this feels like an out of character moment rather than stuff that takes place further on. Um, I do think that like telling Luke to cloud his judgment, like don't tell Vader you have a sister when you tell him that he has a sister is a very stupid thing. Also, the fact that Luke and Leia are twins is not a good story choice. It's not an awful story choice. It's one that I have learned to live with and I don't think is like the worst thing ever. And obviously it makes sense when you look at the broader context, but considering what George Lucas and Richard Marquand could have come up with, it's not a very good idea. Like they could have just been like both they could have both been able to use the force. That could have been something they could have said. They could have both had the potential to use the force. And that's why there is another. I feel like her being a Skywalker also makes it difficult just because there was a lot of romantic tensions between siblings. Not just siblings, but twins. And with twins, it's like I feel that it's very difficult for twins to not realize they're twins. I know obviously there's probably plenty of moments in real life where estranged twins have met each other and they have no idea they're twins if they're fraternal. But like I feel like you have a special connection, and through the Force you would have an even more special connection. The fact that this isn't really teased in episode 4 at all kind of proves that George Lucas didn't really know what he wanted with the franchise. Um I just feel like the story choice there is very hard to swallow. As well as that, like I said, there's a predictable ending. Vader, kind of comes back from the dark side. He becomes Anakin Skywalker again, overthrows the Emperor. And I know, obviously, this is an ending that everyone kind of knows now, but rewatching it again, it just feels like it's obviously where it's all leading up to. It's hard. I've watched it before, obviously, many many times, but I feel like even looking at it from a different perspective, I feel like most people could probably tell that was going to happen. They allude to it many times, like I see the good in you, Father, stuff like that. He's very cordial with Vader the whole time, even though Vader did a lot of unspeakable horrors to Luke. He's very, very forgiving, which is important because we'll probably come back to those types of topics with Luke later on. I will say that Mark Hamill elevates his role. He becomes a deeper character in this movie. He's not like, or he portrays a deeper Luke in this movie. He normally was very whiny, kind of didn't really understand, not very mature, and now he's a more mature Jedi Knight, really. So there is a big contrast between him in this movie and him in the last two movies, which I think is important to note. John Williams cooks again with the score. The score is incredible. My favorite one is the Emperor. The theme for the Emperor again, it's a different theme, and it works really well. And it's added on to the rest of the movies later on in the franchise. The worst part of this movie is how disappointing the attack on the Death Star 2, the second Death Star, is. It's just not interesting. Like the most intriguing part about that is probably the duel between the Emperor, Vader, and Luke, but not the Death Star. The attack on the Death Star was the most important part of Episode 4, and it just doesn't really even matter at all in episode 6 because none of the main characters are there. I mean, I love Lando, but he really is a supporting character. Wedge is there. Nien Nunb is there, and you don't even know who that is because he's only in this movie, I'm pretty sure. It's I think he was actually in a couple sequel trilogy movies. I apologize. But in any case, this is his first appearance ever in the franchise. He's the co-pilot for Lando. And of course, Lando was only introduced a movie ago. I mean, I'm sure at this point he was probably a fan favorite, but again, it just feels like none of the main players are in that battle, and then it's also really easy to destroy it. You just fly in and then destroy it and leave. And we'll come back to that because there's other movies where a very similar thing happens. It just feels a little ridiculous, a little. It's just a worse version of what happened in episode 4. Of course, the best part was the introduction of Endor and the new Ewoks. I love the Ewoks. They are a very good addition to the franchise. I just think they're really cool and cute and cuddly. And also they're like warriors, which is pretty freaking sweet. Also, it led to a lot of great merchandising sales for Lucasfilm, so I'm sure they're very happy they incorporated them in the movie. But I also love the idea of a forest planet. It's something we hadn't seen before in Star Wars. There was a lot of cool. There was scout troopers. There's a lot of cool chases with the bikes. There's a lot of great action on Endor, and those were some of the best parts of the movie. That being said, obviously I didn't hate this movie. In fact, actually, I probably like it a little bit more than you would have thought, considering my criticisms. Um, I'm going to end up giving it an 8.4 out of 10, which means that I didn't do the math actually for the ratings, but I would assume that it is probably a high number. It looks like it would be 19.6 plus be 30. That's not possible. I need a calculator is what I need. Uh, 19.6 plus 8.4, 28 divided by 3 would be 7.3. Nope. Oh my God, I can't math. I can't math at all today. This isn't even it would be a 9.333. So we'll do 9.3 out of 10 um for the arrow so far. But that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and whoa, comment down below and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. We are reviewing episode 1, The Phantom Menace next tomorrow. So see you guys later. Peace.